Are you looking for a wholesome, faith-based Christmas movie to enjoy with your family this year? Well, last week, me and my family watched The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, which is a brand new holiday film directed by Dallas Jenkins, who's the creator of The Chosen. And with its mix of a heartfelt comedy and the nostalgic tone that reminds you of the good old movies that you grew up on, it really does stand out from the typical faith-based Christmas movies that we see today. So in this quick spoiler-free review, I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know before deciding if you should take your family to watch it this Christmas season. All right, let's get into it. All right, so this movie is based on the 1972 children's book, and it's about an annual Christmas pageant at a church, but this one is special, not only because it's the 75th anniversary, but also because nothing is going as planned, and the organizer of the pageant is no longer able to run it. So Grace, who's played by Judy Greer, she steps in to save the pageant and promises to make it a success. But unfortunately for her, chaos ensues when the Herdmans, the worst kids in town, crash the event and demand lead roles. So no one knows if these kids are going to steal stuff, start a fight, or literally set everything on fire. And with everyone expecting disaster, Grace faces pressure to kick the Herdmans out, but something in her wants to give them a chance and see them succeed. Okay, so now that you know what the movie's about, it's worth noting that the critics also seem to think that this film is special as well. Given the fact that it's estimated to do about $20 million domestically in the box office already, this movie is already set to be one of the most successful faith-based films in domestic box office history so far, falling behind The Passion of the Christ, Son of God, and Heaven is for Real. In addition, Rotten Tomatoes even gave it 91% positive reviews from the critics, and even the New York Times praised it, showing that there really is something about this film that's unlike other films of its kind. So what's the reason for all of these positive reviews? Well, I think there's a few reasons. From a quality perspective, it was beautifully shot. It was nothing short of what you'd expect from a major motion picture, once again reminding us just how much better Christian films have gotten in the last few years. The tone of the film is similar to other quirky and fast-paced Christmas movies, and this movie has such a strong nostalgic feel to it as well. Somehow, it will remind you of your childhood, no matter if you grew up in the late 60s, 70s, 80s, or even the 90s. The reason why is because you can't really tell what decade it's supposed to take place in, which works to its advantage because it will undoubtedly feel familiar to most people. Another reason is because when it comes to the acting, I thought that it had great acting all around. The kid actors were phenomenal, and there were tons of seasoned and popular actors in the movie, such as Pete Holmes from Family Switch and Woman of the Hour, as well as Judy Greer, who's been in countless popular movies, such as Jawbreaker, What Women Want, and Guardians of the Galaxy, and it even had Elizabeth Tabish in it from The Chosen. Now, from a Christian perspective, the film definitely wasn't shy about its constant references to Jesus, faith, and the biblical themes. There was a lot of Jesus talk, but it wasn't awkward, it didn't feel forced, and it really did seem to fit naturally. So this works well, not only for Christians who grew up in the church, but also in its appeal to non-Christians. This is one place where Dallas Jenkins really does seem to have a unique gift. Some non-Christians even said this about the film.
Like, I am super not Christian in any way, and I was actually moved by this.
Another thing that I really loved about the film was how the Herdman kids were asking some really good questions about the story of Jesus' birth that made it feel as if you were hearing the story about Jesus' birth for the very first time. This also made it so that both Christians and non-Christians alike are able to learn more of the history surrounding the birth of Christ. So the movie really does do a good job of threading that needle of getting a really broad appeal. And speaking of its broad appeal, I was actually really shocked when the next day after watching the film, my 10-year-old son brought it up to me out of nowhere, which never happens, and he was telling me how much he liked it. I asked him why he liked it so much, and I won't tell you what he said since it will give away the ending, but let's just say that he had one of the best takeaway messages from the film that I could have hoped for. So there's a lot to like about this film because it was simply a really solid, family-friendly, wholesome movie, which is incredibly needed in a time like today when it seems like everything is explicit or infused with messages that run against Christian values. But none of this means that the film was perfect, because there were still a couple of things that I didn't like about the film. To start, when the film started, I came to really like the character of the younger brother, but he didn't seem to have a prominent role in the film as the film went on. And this was a bummer because I was actually looking forward to more scenes with him because he had a natural likability and a humorous element to him, which made me wish that he had a bigger role in the movie. Also, there were some jokes that were definitely corny, But at the same time, it kind of works since that's kind of what you would expect in a quirky Christmas movie. So I don't think that the cheesy jokes will ruin it for people since they don't take you out of the story. Oh, and by the way, if you're thinking of taking your family to see it, for those of us that are really sensitive to content, you should know that there's 1 or 2 times that the Herdman kids are using the Lord's name in vain, as is the case in the original story, and I think that there was one scene of a Herdman kid smoking. But I didn't find either of those cases to be gratuitous or encouraging that behavior, so outside of that, it's an incredibly wholesome film that I think your entire family will enjoy. Overall, the film was, honestly, I think it was really good. It not only has an emotional and climatic ending, it also delivers on positive messages that remind us how Jesus came for all of us, even those like the Herdmans. And my absolute favorite part of the film is how it brings us back to what Christmas is truly about, the story of Christ and how the gospel message to transform the way that we see and treat others. So have you seen it, or do you plan to go see it? Let me know your thoughts down below, and if you enjoyed this review, go ahead and hit the like button on your way out, as it really does help us in the algorithm, and I'll see you guys on the next one. All right? See you next time.